Hurricane Hermine is expected to make landfall tonight as a Category 1. Heavy rain, storm surge, flooding and high winds will sweep ashore through Thursday night and early Friday. A tornado watch is also in effect until 11 p.m. EDT Thursday for portions of northern and central Florida. The system will then spread up the coast to the Carolinas Friday and Saturday. Parts of the mid-Atlantic and northeast coastline may see significant impacts from Hermine after it becomes a non-tropical area of low pressure. Hurricane Hermine is now just hours away from landfall along Florida's Gulf Coast. Bands of heavy rain have already moved inland and conditions will only continue to deteriorate through tonight as damaging winds and life-threatening storm surge flooding increase. Tornadoes will also be a threat. Hurricane warnings continue for a swath of North Florida, extending inland to include the city of Tallahassee. This means hurricane-force winds, at least 74 miles per hour, are expected for a period of time in the warned area. Various tropical storm warnings also continue from parts of Florida to North Carolina. Hermine will likely become a non-tropical low by this weekend and will hover near or off the northeast seaboard, potentially resulting in strong winds, coastal flooding and other impacts. A tropical storm watch is now in effect as far north as coastal parts of New Jersey, Delaware and Maryland as well as the Virginia Tidewater, since the low may still have significant impacts. For more details on what may happen in the Northeast. Current status. Hurricane Hermine was centered about 85 miles south of Apalachicola, Florida, as of Thursday late afternoon. Hermine will likely be the state's first hurricane landfall since Hurricane Wilma in 2005. Winds have gusted over 75 miles per hour in the 6 p.m. hour near Indian Shores Beach in western Pinellas County. A gust to 62 miles per hour at St. Petersburg's Albert Whitted Airport were also reported, and 30 to 40 miles per hour gusts extended as far south as Naples, Florida. These winds prompted the closure of the Sunshine Skyway Bridge. A broad swath of heavy rain is slowly marching toward the Gulf Coast as Hermine pushes north. Infrared satellite imagery, scatterometer data and observations from the hurricane hunters continues to show Hermine is a very lopsided system, with the strongest winds and thunderstorms in the eastern semicircle of the circulation. However, more convection is now sprouting around the core circulation of Hermine, a sign that it will gain strength before landfall. The highest cloud tops, corresponding to the most vigorous convection. This will have important implications on impacts ahead. Forecast track, intensity. As the NHC forecast path shows, Hermine will continue accelerating northeast on a path toward the Florida Gulf Coast. Note that impacts, particularly heavy rain, high surf, coastal flooding, with any tropical cyclone may spread beyond its forecast path. At this time, the NHC expects the system to be a Category 1 hurricane as it makes landfall along the Florida Gulf Coast overnight Thursday night into early Friday morning. Incidentally, this would snap several long-standing hurricane-less streaks, including last U.S. hurricane landfall, Arthur in the Outer Banks on July 3, 2014. Last Gulf of Mexico hurricane, Ingrid in September 2013. Last Florida hurricane landfall, Wilma on October 24, 2005. More, where every U.S. hurricane has hit since 1985. After its Gulf landfall, the storm will track through southeast Georgia and over or near the low country of South Carolina and eastern North Carolina to bring rain and wind the Friday and Saturday. Impacts. Storm surge. The combination of heavy rainfall and storm surge around the time of the system's landfall Thursday night or early Friday could combine to produce life-threatening flooding along parts of Florida's Gulf Coast. Here are the potential peak water rise forecasts from the NHC if it occurs at high tide. Destined to Indian Pass, 1 to 3 feet. Indian Pass to Ocklawakanee River, 4 to 7 feet. Ocklawakanee River to Yankeetown, 6 to 9 feet. Yankeetown to Aripka, 4 to 7 feet. Aripka to Longboat Key, including Tampa Bay, 2 to 4 feet. Longboat Key to Bonita Beach, 1 to 3 feet. Florida-Georgia line to Tidewater of Virginia, 1 to 3 feet. Map, NHC Storm Surge Potential Forecast, Prototype NHC Storm Surge Watch, Warning. Keep in mind there will also be battering waves riding atop the surge, capable of erosion and shoreline damage. The northeast Gulf of Mexico coast from Apalachee Bay to north of St. Petersburg is prone to storm surge flooding thanks to the West Florida shelf, where the seafloor rises significantly, allowing water driven by a tropical cyclone's winds to pile up. Why parts of the Florida Gulf Coast, namely from north of St. Petersburg to Apalachee Bay, are prone to storm surge flooding. Here are times of high and low tides closest in time to the nearest pass of strongest onshore winds. Keep in mind the NHC surge forecasts are worst-case scenarios if they occur at high tide. High, low tides near Hermine's closest pass, all times local. Cedar Key, Florida 9:07 p.m. Thursday, low 3:07 a.m. Friday, high. Apalachicola, Florida 11:34 p.m. Thursday, low 5:35 a.m. Friday, high. Charleston, South Carolina 3:27 p.m. Friday, low 9:33 p.m. Friday, high. Wrightsville Beach, North Carolina 8:55 p.m. Friday, high 3:18 a.m. Saturday, low. While coastal flooding will be a concern along the coast from Georgia to southern North Carolina, the somewhat rapid movement of Hermine through the area should mitigate the severity of coastal flooding in these areas. However, there will be heavy rainfall adding to that. Rainfall flooding. The threat of heavy rainfall is not a function of tropical cyclone intensity, but rather the system's slow movement and availability of deep, tropical moisture, as we saw with an unnamed system earlier this month triggering Louisiana's epic flooding. Fortunately, Hermine will now accelerate to the northeast. That faster forward motion will mitigate the heavy rain threat somewhat. However, this system will have a deep fetch of tropical moisture along its eastern and southern flanks. Therefore, bands of heavy rain could train along and south of its path over the Florida peninsula, possibly into Friday. Then, a slug of heavy rain should also push northeast into southern Georgia and the eastern Carolinas Thursday through at least early Saturday. The heaviest additional rainfall from this system appears to line up over parts of North Florida and southwest Georgia, where many locations look primed to pick up 5 to 10 inches of total rainfall, with isolated amounts of 15 to 20 inches possible. A broad swath of 4 to 8 inches of rain looks likely in the eastern Carolinas. Of course, where bands of heavy rain stall, over 3 inches of rain could fall in an hour or so, leading to serious flash flooding, particularly in urban areas. More rainfall flood concern for saturated Gulf Coast. Winds. Tropical storm force and hurricane force winds may arrive near and to the east of the system by late Thursday afternoon or evening along parts of Florida's Big Bend and Panhandle in the warned areas. In addition, tropical storm force winds are expected inland over parts of North Florida, spreading into southeast Georgia and the coastal Carolinas. Probability of tropical storm force winds, 39 miles per hour or higher, according to the National Hurricane Center. In general, these winds may down trees, trigger power outages, damage mobile homes, and may lead to sporadic structural damage of homes and buildings. Trees in soil dampened from heavy rainfall are particularly susceptible to be downed by high winds. Tornado threat. As with most landfalling tropical cyclones, there is a threat of tornadoes embedded in rain bands. Thursday and Thursday night, this threat is focused in parts of North Florida and South Georgia. Due to this, the Storm Prediction Center, SPC, has issued a tornado watch valid until 11 p.m. EDT for portions of northern and central Florida. That threat may spread Friday and Friday night to the coastal Carolinas. Storm history. We first began tracking this system when it was known as an INVEST, an area highlighted by the National Hurricane Center for possible development, just off the west coast of Africa on August 18. Known as INVEST 99 liters, this tropical wave made the long journey to the Leeward Islands, Puerto Rico and Bahamas without developing into a tropical cyclone, thanks to a combination of wind shear, dry air, and interaction with land. Despite that, it soaked parts of the Caribbean, Bahamas, and Cuba. More than 1,700 people were displaced from their homes in the Dominican Republic due to heavy rainfall. Santa Lucia, Cuba picked up a whopping 12.50 inches, 317.4 millimeters, of rain in 36 hours ending at 8 a.m. EDT on August 30, according to Weather Underground's Director of Meteorology, Dr. Jeff Masters. Hermine finally earned its name as a tropical storm on August 31 after data collected by the NOAA hurricane hunters indicated that the system was producing tropical storm force winds. Heavy rain well ahead of Hermine then soaked parts of western Florida on August 31, triggering widespread street flooding. Sarasota, Florida, set a new calendar day record for any August day, picking up 7.76 inches on August 31, crushing the previous record of 5.90 inches from August 14, 1928.